Out here, light is not comfort, it's instruction. A lighthouse doesn't exist to be admired. It exists so that strangers may survive the dark. On a winter night in the North Atlantic, one of those lights failed. Not dimmed, not flickering, gone. 3 men were assigned to keep it burning. None of them ever returned. On December 15, 1900, the lighthouse at Eilean Mor went dark. Not dimmed, not flickering, gone. For ships crossing the Minch, that light was not decoration. It was survival. A fixed point in one of the most dangerous stretches of water in the North Atlantic. When it failed, it was noticed immediately. But no one could reach the island. Winter seas ruled this part of the world. Storms didn't arrive politely. They rose suddenly, violently, and without warning. And for 11 days, the Flannan Isles remained unreachable. 20 miles west of the Scottish mainland, the Flannan Isles are little more than black stone thrust upward from the ocean. No trees, no soil, no shelter. The wind never truly stops here. It only changes direction. For centuries, sailors avoided these rocks whenever possible, not because they were uncharted, but because of reputation. The islands were said to feel wrong. Sounds carried strangely. Shadows lingered where they should not. Monks who once lived here recorded isolation so severe it fractured the mind. Still, in 1899, humanity challenged the Atlantic. A lighthouse was built. The tower on Eilean Mor was a fortress of stone and steel, engineered to survive the unimaginable. Thick granite walls, heavy iron fittings, a lantern room elevated high above the waves. This was not a fragile structure. Inside lived 3 men. James Ducat, the principal keeper, quiet, disciplined, deeply committed to duty. Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, methodical, educated, a meticulous record keeper. Donald MacArthur, the occasional keeper, volatile, emotionally expressive, but experienced at sea. They were not reckless men, they were professionals. On December 26, 1900, the supply ship Hesperus finally approached the island. Captain James Harvey slowed the vessel as it rounded the rock. By regulation, a flag should have been raised to signal readiness. Provision crates should have been visible on the landing. There were none. Harvey sounded the ship's horn. Once, twice. The sound echoed off the cliffs and vanished into the wind. No reply. The lighthouse itself stood intact. The light was extinguished. The island appeared abandoned. Joseph Moore, a relief keeper familiar with the tower, volunteered to go ashore alone. As Moore stepped from the boat onto the wet stone landing, he later said the silence felt unnatural, not peaceful, pressurized, as if the island itself were listening. He climbed the 160 steep steps carved into the cliff face, calling out names as he ascended.
Ducat! Marshall! MacArthur!
Nothing answered him. The compound gate was closed. The lighthouse door was shut, but unlocked. Inside, the kitchen was orderly, too orderly. The fire had burned itself down to ash. The lamp was trimmed, filled with oil, and ready. On the table sat cold meat and pickles, laid out deliberately, half-eaten. One chair lay overturned, as if someone had risen suddenly, violently. But the most chilling detail hung by the door. 3 hooks lined the wall. Only one oilskin coat remained. 2 were missing, which meant that at least one man had gone outside into a North Atlantic winter without protection. That is not negligence. That is desperation. Joseph Moore did not immediately search the cliffs. He searched for context. He found it in the Lighthouse logbook. The entries from early December read as expected: routine maintenance, weather notes, mechanical checks. Calm, professional, predictable. Then on December 12th, the tone changes. Thomas Marshall writes, "Severe winds such as I have never seen in 20 years. At first glance, this seems unremarkable. Storms were common here, but Marshall was not prone to exaggeration. His earlier entries across multiple postings were measured, restrained, and technical. He also notes something else. James Ducat, the senior keeper, had grown unusually quiet." Then comes the line that has unsettled historians for over a century. Donald MacArthur is crying. MacArthur was known on the mainland as combative. Emotional, yes, but not fragile. He had been disciplined for violence, not fear. Why would a hardened mariner break down inside a reinforced stone tower? The answer seems obvious until it isn't. Because we have the weather records, multiple independent sources, coastal stations on Lewis Island, ship logs from vessel passing through the Minch, and regional observations all agree December 12th was calm. Clear skies, low winds, no significant wave activity. This was not a mist storm. This was a contradiction. So what were the men experiencing? This is where careless explanations fail. Not madness, not ghosts, not hysteria, but psychological pressure.
So what were the light-skinned Caucasian men experiencing? This is where careless explanations fail.
Isolation in lighthouse service was extreme. Weeks without contact, endless repetition, the constant presence of the sea, audible even in sleep. Studies of similar environments show that stress can manifest physically. Phantom sounds, misjudged threats, distorted perception. On December 13th, the logbook grows more erratic. Marshall writes, storm continued through night, wind shifting west-northwest. Then quietly, the three of us having been praying. These were not religious men by reputation. Prayer appears nowhere else in their records. Three trained keepers inside a structure built to withstand cataclysm were praying for mercy. From what? December 14th passes without a single entry. Silence. Whatever was unfolding inside the tower, it had intensified. Then comes the final record, December 15th. The handwriting is suddenly calm again. Steady, measured. Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all. And that is where the history stops. The clock inside the lighthouse stopped shortly afterward. At some point after the sentence was written, all three men left the building. The clock inside the lighthouse stopped shortly afterward. At some point after that sentence was written, all three men left the building. This alone defies protocol. Lighthouse regulations were explicit. Under no circumstances are all keepers to leave the light unattended. Yet they did. And one of them did so without a coat. Joseph Moore later found the only physical evidence at the West Landing, the most dangerous part of the island. Iron railings were twisted outward. A heavy railway track bolted into concrete had been torn free. A stone slab weighing more than a ton had been displaced and thrown inland. This damage was not gradual, it was sudden and violent. Local sailors had a name for it. The drag, the dragon. Modern oceanographers call it a rogue wave. For centuries, such waves were considered myth, sailors' tales, exaggerations. Until the late 20th century, science dismissed them entirely. Then satellite data proved they exist. In rare conditions, especially where deep ocean currents collide with steep underwater topography, waves can stake vertically, forming a moving wall of water, 100 feet high, appearing without warning, striking with catastrophic force. The region of the Atlantic is uniquely suited for such events. The most plausible reconstruction is this. During a lull, Ducat and Marshall descend onto the West Landing to secure equipment. MacArthur remains in the tower. From the lantern room, he sees it first, the horizon rising, water standing where it should not. He panics. He sees the wall of water rising. He panics. He knocks over the chair. He doesn't grab his coat because he isn't going to work. He is going out to warn them. He runs into the dock. Seconds later, the wave strikes. The iron rails bend. The concrete fractures. All three men are swept into the Atlantic. No bodies are ever recovered. But this explanation doesn't close the case. It explains how they died, not why they were already unraveling days before. The Northern Lighthouse Board officially closed the investigation. No foul play was suspected. No further inquiry was pursued. The lighthouse at Eilean Mor is automated today. No keepers live there. Yet sailors passing the island still report unease. Not sightings, not apparitions, but sensations. Sound that seemed misplaced, a sense of being watched. These accounts are not evidence, they are echoes. What remains is a lesson that isolation is not passive, that environment shapes perception, and that even the strongest structures cannot always protect the mind. The Flannan Isles did not need monsters, only the sea, and three men who never returned.